Success Stories panel. And I'm Sharon Fake. I work at the Tahoe Regional Communities Agency with our long range planning department. And we're responsible for overseeing an initiative called the Tahoe Living Initiative, which focuses on working with our partners to meet the regional housing need. And also, while doing that, help meet our environmental goals and protect their costs. And so I have definitely had the honor of working with all three of these panelists over the last 5 or so years. And they are all going to give you examples of how they have gotten actual housing on the ground. And housing in Tahoe can be a real challenge. And one of the things that's really interesting about it is there's just so many different elements to getting houses on the ground. There's land acquisition, there's working with partners, as we've been hearing. There's the economics, there's financing, there's communications. And so all of these panelists have been really diligent and tenacious and very invested in the local community to be able to make this happen. So I am excited to introduce them to you. And just one other thing I wanted to say, it'll be really interesting to hear about what worked for their projects, and then also hear some of the challenges that they faced. And I'm going to ask them to talk about kind of like what they would like you to know about those challenges, so that we can all work together to try to address them moving forward. So I'm going to start introducing Diaz. He is the executive director of the St. Joseph Community Land Trust, which is a pretty unique organization that we have in Lake Tahoe that has a very exceptional model for encouraging housing. And Gene is going to tell us.
Sure. Great.
Okay. Hello, everyone. St. Joseph Community, how many of you have heard of us and know about us? That's good. We are a 501c3 non-profit housing developer. So that's an unusual animal to begin with. Just quickly, I'm going to go up here. By the way, this QR code here will give you a link to this full presentation. I have 10 minutes. I'm not going to go over the whole thing. I'm going to focus on just a few slides. But you can get the QR links to the whole thing, go through the whole thing at your leisure. So what do? We do a lot of different things. We do workforce rental. We do moderate income ownership. We do member and community education. We do supported programs. Some of you may be familiar with the housing ladder, from living in a trailer to market rate, full market rate housing. We sort of operate in this section, sort of the 30% to 120% of area median income. That's sort of the target market for us. So our successes, that's what this is about.
In recent years, California has introduced several innovative...
I couldn't do this on my own. This is a nice video about Sugar Pine Village, our 248-unit workforce rental project.
First action
2 minutes.
in the office in 2019 was an executive order to identify underutilized state-owned plots located near good job, transit, and services, and help them to become feature sites for affordable homes. The California Department of Housing and Community Development and Department of General Services identified potentially to thousands more climate-friendly affordable housing fruition across the state, and helping make progress towards the state's goal of 2.5 million new homes underway by 2030. Since the start of this Excess Land for Affordable Housing program, HCD and DGS have worked closely with local governments and housing developers to bring these sites to life at an unprecedented pace. Today, we'll be taking a visit to beautiful South Lake Tahoe, where Sugar Pine Village is being developed after breaking ground in October 2022. This will be the largest affordable housing development ever completed in South Lake Tahoe. Developed by Related California and St. Joseph Community Land Trust, Sugar Pine Village will provide the area with 248 affordable rental homes for people working in and around Lake Tahoe. Beyond the innovative land use and approval process that the Excess Land program enabled, Sugar Pine Village is utilizing a factory-built housing method to both speed up construction times, as well as limit the impact on-site construction could have on the surrounding South Lake Tahoe community. Assembled at Factory FS in Vallejo, California, These units will be transported to the location and completed as sugarcane package. Under the purview of HCE's Codes and Standards Division, each unit is assembled and inspected, ensuring it's up to the same standards as site-built construction. Once completed, Sugar Pine Village will provide residents access to all of the South Lake Tahoe amenities to offer. From the gorgeous shoreline of the lake, local amenities like grocery stores, or easy access to South Lake Tahoe's extensive bike trails, Sugar Pine Village will give people not just a place to live, but a community to be a part of and call their own. We're HCD. Our vision is a California where every resident can live.
So that's just a brief sort of overview of the project. It's 248 units, studio, 1, 2, and 3-bedroom apartments. For the workforce, it's workforce rental. So the area median income target is from 30% of area median income to 60% of area median income. So it's really intended for the people who are working in the resorts, the restaurants, the tourist industry, a lot of the workforce that our employers depend on to provide their services to the public. It's being built in 4 phases. Phase 1, 68 units, is complete, fully leased up, full tenant occupancy. Everybody is really happy. There's actually a nice little video at the end. Phase 2, another 60 units. We will start the lease up for phase 2 probably the end of this month, beginning of next month. Phase 3, the units, another 60 units, are under construction. And as the video pointed out, it's modular construction, so the units are built off-site. They come shipped up in a big finished block, including the appliances, the flooring, everything like you saw in that video, and then assembled like Lego blocks. Phase 4, we are in the process right now of putting the financing together for phase 4. Financing for a project like this is pretty complex. The financing for phase 1, for example, was probably 6 or 7 different financing sources, different state agency, grants, loans, City of South Lake Tahoe. Pretty complicated to put one of these projects together. But as was pointed out, it's on state land, state excess land, that could not have been built without getting that kind of support for the land. So that's rental. We also do moderate income ownership, and that's sort of the 80% to 120% area median income level. This is ownership. The people will buy and own the home on land. The Community Land Trust retains ownership of the land, and we sell the home subject to a 99-year ground lease. That ground lease has, for example, a resale restriction. It says they can sell anytime they want, but when they sell, it has to be sold to a family, a household, at that 120% or below level. So it retains permanent affordability. In terms of the benefit for the household, right? There were 2 2-bedroom homes. The appraised value was $785,000. This is now 2 years ago. The purchase price for the homeowners, and these are the 2 2-bedroom homeowners, they paid $455,000. The 3-bedroom home appraised for almost $905,000. They paid $507,000. So that's the benefit to the moderate income household. We last year we got the Best in the Basin award from TRPA. Thank you very much. I was very proud to get that. It's a great project. And as you see, we were working through the winter. One of the problems we had with this when we started the project was pre-COVID. It penciled out. We were at least going to break even. We're a nonprofit, so we aren't in it for profit. But when COVID hit, asphalt went up, siding went up, everything went up. So we actually wound up subsidizing these homes by about $100,000 each. Fortunately, we could do that, and I'll sort of explain why in just a minute. But that's an example of our moderate income ownership. the Tahoe program. So those two projects are new construction. That's providing new affordable housing. And the Riverside project, by the way, was built on 3 lots that we got from the city of South Lake Tahoe for $1. So Sugar Pine Village, we got from the state of California. The Riverside project, city of South Lake Tahoe. Getting the land is very important and difficult. So this is sort of a variation. This is the Tahoe program. Tahoe Affordable Home Ownership Enabling Program. We came up with this about 2 years ago, pre-COVID. We were ready to launch the program. COVID hit, it destroyed the economics. The way this program works, you'll see there are 3 different prongs, but in essence, this is to preserve existing housing stock. We would provide funds for an income qualified household to go out and buy an existing home, and that would go into the community land trust portfolio. We're actually working on, and so it's been on hold, but recently with all of the things, the difficulty now in building new homes, I said, let's reinvigorate the Tahoe program. So as it turns out, there's a situation in South Lake Tahoe, elderly homeowner. She's getting ready to sell. There's been a tenant family living in that house for 11 years. They would love to stay there. They would love to buy the home, but they can't do it themselves. So this may be the first actual pilot program for the Tahoe program, where we will help them buy the home, do whatever repairs are necessary, and they become homeowners and are not displaced. We hope to be in escrow next week.
Is it a deed restriction?
No,
Can you just clarify how it maintains permanent affordability?
the ground lease.
Ground lease. Okay.
Right.
Okay, got it.
So this program works whether there's a deed restriction, like Riverside has a deed restriction. We can live with deed restrictions if they're properly worded. This is on our own. There's no city money, no federal money, no state money. This is on our own. So there's no deed restriction, but the ground lease makes it permanently affordable.
Understood.
So we're really excited about being able to launch the program. So I just wanted to hit those 3. Again, if you get the link, you can go through all of this. There's a lot of good stuff about our mission, who we are, why we do what we do. Plug. So I have a couple minutes.
Well, you have 1 minute.
Okay. That's all this can take.
Hey.
This is the groundbreaking for Sugar Pine Village.
Into her 1-bedroom apartment here at Sugar Pine by the end of the month.
The very first
please
tenant.
join me in welcoming Wendy.
I can honestly say I don't know any of you, but I love each and every one of you, honestly. But hearing everybody and finding out how many people were responsible for this happening has just really humbled me. And it has really made me so proud of this town.
That's why we do what we do.
We have really appreciated our partnership with this.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jean. We could take one question for Jean while Chase is getting his presentation set up. Does anybody have another question?
Are you only in South Lake?
We are headquartered in Zephyr Cove. Our projects to date have really focused on South Shore. We're working with, they're working with some of the organizations here on the North Shore, Douglas County, Placer County, and then so we're trying to find opportunities where we can bring the good things we're doing to the North Shore.
Okay. And could you? Okay, no, you need to help with this.
No, go ahead.
Question. Well, I'll go ahead and introduce Chase.
Yep.
So Chase is going to talk about the program Placemate, and Chase is Placemate's general manager for the Lake Tahoe region, and he's responsible for homeowner onboarding, tenant placement, and operations with this program. So take it away, Chase.
Thanks, Karen. Hi, I'm Chase Janvrin, GM of Placemate, and I'd like to start with a quick quiz. Who's a property owner in the Tahoe Basin? How many of you have heard of Placemate or the Lease to Locals program? Awesome. Oh, that's great. Okay. Cool. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about background on Placemate and how we got started. I'm going to focus on the Lease to Locals program. We do have another program offering called Rooted Renters, but just in the interest of time, I'm really going to stay focused on Lease to Locals. That's our bread and butter and what we started with. I'll quickly touch on some national and regional results and then deep dive into Truckee as an example market. The only reason they're not picking Truckee to start with is that's the market that we were born in. We've been there the longest. We have the most data, but this could have been any other market as an example. So really what got us started is we envision a world where communities are thriving because local employees can find housing. And to say it another way, we don't want housing to be the limiting factor of communities thriving. We want to remove that variable of why our communities are struggling. We do that with helping local employees secure housing in these tourism-based communities. We used to say mountain towns because that's what we focused on with ski towns in Colorado and Idaho and of course Tahoe. But we learned that beach communities and the East Coast, for example, have very, very similar housing struggles. So we branched out there. I'll make note of a couple of those. And we do that with innovative public-private partnerships. So we partner with cities, towns, counties, sometimes nonprofits for a philanthropic angle, and they provide the funding. We administer the program from top to bottom. So it's also an extension of their housing program. A lot of the jurisdictions we partner with, in fact, almost all of them, don't have capacity to run a program like this. So they pay us less than the cost of one full-time employee. We bring in the platform and we have a team of folks that run it from top to bottom. We started in 2019, but really the concept there was building a platform. When the founders moved their family to Truckee and were trying to find a rental, they saw tons of empty homes, but they couldn't rent any of them. And they realized if they wanted to vacation in Truckee, they could get an Airbnb like that. It was frictionless. So they built this platform so they could try to enable a frictionless system to find long-term rentals. And then when COVID hit, the town of Truckee actually suggested, how about we layer on an incentive to really juice this program and convince property owners to rent long-term to locals. We expanded nationally quickly thereafter, nationally being another state. And then last year we opened in our 10th market. So as of now, we're in 11 markets across 5 separate states. And like I said, not just lease to locals, but also rooted renters as well. Again, we do this by converting existing housing stock. You know, the ownership programs and the new construction, those are absolutely important programs that have to be considered in any of the solutions that we have to the housing crisis in our communities. But one of the benefits of Placemate is it's kind of a triage system, right? It can be implemented in a matter of months, and we can open up housing and get heads in beds very, very quickly. We do that with a cash incentive. I'll point out that cash incentive is a one-time deal. For most of the markets, it's one and done. And again, it's meant to get folks off the fence. We talk to property owners all the time that have owned a home for years, if not decades, and they have grown kids and they haven't been to their property in a number of years now. And it's like, well, I just haven't, inertia. I haven't had to do anything with the property. It's like, well, here's a big incentive to get you off the fence. And most of the time, I'll talk about this later, once they realize how well it works, they continue renting long term. Jean mentioned a couple times about the nuance between AMI, area median income, and the regulations that are on certain affordable housing projects and the AMI that they're tied to. One of the benefits of this program with Lease to Locals is we can cater it to whatever the jurisdiction wants. The Truckee program, I believe, is 125% AMI. We have some programs that go up to 200% AMI. So we can cater it to exactly whatever the jurisdictional needs. I'm going to skip this slide in the interest of time, but it really just talks about the journey of the property owners and the local tenants and how we collaborate between them. Here's a quick overview of all the markets that we're in now. You can see California, Nevada, Colorado, Idaho, and then on the East Coast in Vermont and Massachusetts. And I'll mention that everyone sees their own community housing needs, right? And we think we have a big problem here, and we do. And then you see what it's like in Nantucket. And we're on a figurative island here. They're on a literal island. There is nowhere to build. The wealth is extraordinary out there. We've talked to a business owner that every day helicopters his employees to and from the island to the mainland. The housing crisis has expanded to anywhere near the ferry. So on Cape Cod, if it's even reasonably close to the ferry, prices have tripled for all of those homes too. It's a crazy problem that really no community is immune to. So across all of those 11 markets, we've unlocked 738 properties and helped house almost 1,700 people at this point. And then digging in a little bit more granular, just in the Tahoe region in these 4 markets, I'll point out Incline Village, Crystal Bay, we just launched a couple months ago, so it's a new program, not a lot of data there. But if we combine all 4 of those, we're approaching 400 homes in the Tahoe Truckee area and almost 1,000 locals that we've helped keep local and find housing for. Really proud of these results. All right, so I'm gonna dig into Truckee, and like I said earlier, this could have been any market, but we picked Truckee because we've been there the longest. One of the key takeaways here is that when we launch a program and we work with any given jurisdiction, the program is not a black box. We change any of the guidelines to address whatever concerns the local jurisdiction wants to address. That can be AMI, that can be property type, it can be tenant type. Just to give one example as to how we can customize it, in Summit County, Colorado, the only thing they wanted to do was to convert Airbnbs. That was it. So if a property wanted to participate, they had to be an Airbnb. In Tahoe region, the market dynamic is different. Most of our properties are vacant second homes, not Airbnbs. So we allow either one of those types. Of course, the property must be located in that jurisdictional boundary. The property must not have had full-time tenants within the last 12 months. That's a big one because, again, we're trying to create new rental housing stock. If it's already been a rental, we don't need to try to convert it, right? This is where I'll touch on rooted renters. The point of rooted renters is long-term rental housing preservation, where at least to locals is long-term rental housing creation. So rooted renters is what the program that addresses preserving existing rental housing stock. For lease to locals, leases can be either seasonal or long-term. There's a rent cap of $3,500. Different markets will approach the rent cap differently. Sometimes it's a blanket rent cap, like in Truckee. Other times it's a rent cap specific to unit size. 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom will have different unit rent caps. The incentive amounts are different based on lease length. So a seasonal lease will have a smaller incentive than a long-term lease. And then it's calculated by the number of qualified tenants. And qualified tenants are different than anyone living in the household. A qualified tenant essentially means that they're a local employee. The reason we allow for non-qualified tenants is because we didn't want to exclude families. So if there's a stay-at-home spouse, that household can still qualify as long as whoever is working is a local employee, right? The average gross income, 150% AMI for Truckee, which means the adult income cannot average over 118. I want to point out that that's the adult average, not the household maximum. So if you've got 2 local adult employees, they can't average greater than that, right? There's quickly the incentive amounts. You can see how it works with seasonal or long-term, and then the number of qualified tenants. And then here's the property owner pipeline. So in the last 5 years, we've made contact with over 1,000 property owners. That's almost 7% of the total housing inventory in Truckee. Some people point this out and they get alarmed at the number, what a high percentage non-qualified, non-interested are. But in every market, that's the case. The vast majority of people are either going to decide it's not right for them, or they're not qualified for some reason. They've already been a long-term rental. It's their property type doesn't count, something like that. But what I want to key in on is the total properties. That's greater than the 20% conversion rate. So 1 in 5 property owners do end up entering the program. So that 20% anchor is what we judge success against in the other markets. So I'm going to jump to the bottom number here. And this is one of, I think, the single biggest, most important takeaways from this program. Every new market that we talk to asks about this, existing jurisdictions we partner with. What happens with those properties at the end of that first year lease? Almost 70% of the properties continue to rent long-term, even though there's no additional incentive for them. So it gets people off the fence, and then they keep renting long-term. This is a hugely successful component of this program. You can see on the side the breakdown from that. The vast majority continue to rent to the existing tenants. Sometimes there's turnover. The tenants leave on their own accord, and the property owners still continue renting. So we love seeing that. Other markets we've seen higher. The last year in South Lake, the year 2 of lease to locals in South Lake, 93% of the property owners continued to rent long term. There's high-level tenant info. Again, Truckee, 540 locals housed, average rent just shy of $2,500. And I'll point out the average adult income. Going back to the AMI, even though the cap is almost $120,000, you can see the average adult income is significantly less. So that cap is a very high-level limit for the employee types and the income qualifications. But on average, it's significantly lower than that cap. The Placer County program doesn't even have an income cap, and their average adult income is just a little bit higher than this. So every once in a while, someone will point out, like, the Incline Village market, the 200% AMI. Oh my God, that's crazy. Why would we provide a program for people who make that much? Almost nobody is going to run up against that cap. The average income is always significantly lower. And then incentives, again, this is Truckee focused. $7,600 is the average cost of incentive per property. And when you put the total cost together for the Truckee program over 5 years, we're at about $2.1 million. But that's housed 540 locals. The average cost of new construction per unit on the North Shore is just about $1 million. So you can build 2 new units, or you can house 540 people with this, right? It's $4,000 a person on average. So when it comes down to like the ROI of just heads and beds, there is no program out there that can be implemented as quickly or cost effectively as this program. And then one of the other quick little points I'll make is that for most programs, there is some component of NIMBYism that comes out, right? With the Lease to Locals program, we almost never see it in any of the markets that we've operated in. Tenants like it, property owners like it, jurisdictions like it. So that's one of the things I think is most attractive to bringing this in is, again, it can be done so quickly and it's well received from the community. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Does anybody have a question for Chase?
A quick question. So where are the incentive funds generated from?
Yeah, good question. So it's different by market. Ultimately, the jurisdictions that we partner with have to come up with those funds. We've seen everything from ARPA funds, that was a response to COVID. Most of the time, and what we like to see in general is a recurring sustainable funding source like TOT funds, right? I think TOT in particular is very well suited to this program because an argument can be made that the tourism industry, the Airbnbs, is part of the contributing problem, right? So that little tiny line item on the bottom of a hotel receipt or an Airbnb booking, part of that tax goes to the jurisdiction, and then that jurisdiction uses it for other housing programs. A little part of that will come to us. In Truckee, Measure K was passed to create a specific recurring revenue source for us. But in Nantucket, it's purely funded from philanthropic dollars. Almost everywhere, coming up with $500,000-ish to launch this program, it's going to be a government entity. But in Nantucket, we made the presentation. The executive director looked to one board member and said, "What do you think?" He was like, "Yeah, sure." He wrote a $500,000 check. So
Is that a community foundation?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So we know that's not a replicable model for financing, but it's different. It's different and it's flexible depending on the market rate.
Okay, great. Thanks. We'll have a little bit more time for questions for everybody at the end. Now I want to introduce Samir Tuma from Kila Properties. Samir is going to tell you about a couple of things. I mentioned that Samir is on the board of the Tahoe Housing Hub and the North Tahoe Community Alliance, and TCA has a presentation later today, I think. And also those Tahoe Housing Hub is doing some really exciting stuff with promoting the ability to build accessory dwelling. So,
And the two-time lease to locals participate.
Yeah, the program is great. So time constraints, so I'll try to run through this quickly. We have a couple of projects that I want to talk about. One is what we refer to as the dormitory, and we'll describe that a little bit. And then on the other one is essentially an ADU solution, accessory dwelling unit solution, that we put on a commercial property, but it's something that easily could be used by others. We think we've solved some of the problems. So I think everybody knows, it's super expensive to develop here. Land costs lots of money. There are regulatory barriers to getting things done, and ultimately sometimes, depending on where you are, what the issues are, there's community pushback. So I want to talk about how we addressed each of those challenges as we went through these projects, and then I'll talk a little bit more about projects themselves. So where we built these two buildings, or renovated one and built the new one, were in the Peters Shopping Center in Tahoe City. We purchased that in 2018. At that time, we had Pete and Peters in one side, and yes, they are still there and will be there for a very long time. We got a long lease, so don't worry about that. And then in the other building at the time, half of it was a gym and half of it was used for office space. Pandemic comes along. Gyms are a challenge. Office space is somewhat obsolete. People aren't using office. And we knew that there was an enormous demand for housing. So we looked at that building and we said, okay, what can we do here? And this is my business, and I really couldn't figure out a solution that made sense financially. So I went and talked to the people at Placer County. And this is one of my takeaways, which is always go talk to the regulatory agencies, both Placer County and TRPA. In this case, they were both very creative. Placer County came up with the idea of using the SRO code, which is single room occupancy, which essentially is a dormitory where you have a room and then you have a communal kitchen and communal bathrooms. I'll talk a little bit more about that. But they actually came up with the idea, which is interesting, so I couldn't figure it out, but they had some ideas. And by doing that in partnership with the county from the get-go, they were helping formulate the application that we ultimately filed, and were able to get through the process very quickly. So that's one of the ways you address the regulatory challenges is just relationships and working with people. This was an adaptive reuse program. So we used the existing building, essentially gutted the entire inside, but we were not starting from scratch. So that's part of how we addressed the cost. The use itself is an allowed use. It's getting a little bit geeky on the planning stuff, but that means that you don't have to go through the much longer process. If you have a permitted use, you have to get a use permit, you have to go through a longer process. If it's an allowed use, you're simply able to do it. You just pull a building permit. So that was another benefit to what made this project work. And then, this is dense. We have 28 people living in 3,600 square feet. So it's dense. It's a lot of people in one location. A little bit less pushback on that in a town center than it would be if you try to do a dormitory in a neighborhood of single-family homes. So those were that was the thinking and the vehicles that we used to overcome some of the traditional obstacles you would see with a project like this. And so what we did was we were putting this up against the environment that this is targeted towards a particular demographic, right? This isn't a family of 4 with a dog and 2 kids. They're not living in this dormitory. So we looked at
Typically, these are the younger demographic, people who are really interested in the lifestyle and they need a place to sleep at night. So we put it up against, some of the motels or people overcrowding in different houses and things like that. And we try to create an environment that's nice, clean, new, safe, energy efficient, but also by being in a town center, people can walk to the grocery store. They certainly can walk to the bar next door. It's right on the TART line. TART Connect comes through every morning, picks people up, takes them off to work, brings them back. So that central location was allowed for a lifestyle at a much more affordable price point than a lot of the other options that are out there. And in a nicer environment, I think, than some of the environments folks are living in. And then the one other thing I will say is 28 people are now living in this dormitory. That means 5 or 6 homes up in the community are now available for long-term rent or other uses. So there's a win there as well. So I talked about this. Really, the location is key. You can do this outside of town centers. There's a little higher hurdle that you have to get over. But these buildings, there's a lot of these older buildings that are around that, we would be happy if anyone's interested in trying to do a project like this. We'd be happy to talk about lesson learned and what they might be able to do. But it does work outside of town centers. It's just a little bit better in town centers. So this is the building. For those of you who know Pete and Peters, right next door. So on the left-hand side is the building. We literally did not change the facade, painted it, made it nice, made it new, clean, upgraded. The interior, this is a common area. So there's a double kitchen. There's obviously television, the lounge area. So everybody sort of jointly uses that area as the communal area. We put that up by the bar, so that there's not a noise conflict there. And then this is one of the hallways. Everybody in Tahoe has lots of gear. So in addition to the rings and the what they have in there, there's a locker for everybody. The bathrooms that we use, it's 6 bathrooms for 28 people. But the way that we built them, you have on the right-hand side, you have a toilet and that back door closes. On the left-hand side, you can't see that, but in there is a shower and that door also closes. So as far as genders go, as far as multiple people getting ready in the mornings or the evenings, it allows that to work. It's not shown. There's also a full laundry facility, a couple set to wash and dryer on site for folks. So that's the dormitory. Just very quickly, on a commercial property, typically you can't build an ADU as we know it, but there is a provision in the code that TRPA pointed out to me where you can build a caretaker unit. So what we did, this building here, it's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath A-frame. It is, in terms of addressing the challenges again, this is a kit that is sold by a company, and it has great benefits. One is it's significantly less expensive to construct than a typical stick-built house. The other thing is the way it's designed, it works with the snow loads. So a lot of the challenges that we have with ADUs that are designed, that are prefab or modular, they won't bear the snow loads. This will bear the snow loads. So 3-bedroom, 1-bath, very efficient, nice, new. Again, this is the kitchen great room area. We were able to build this very cost effectively, and it's both it as well as the dormitory have been rented since they came online a little over a year ago. So, and then this particular house, we are building another ADU on a property. Actually, it's one of the properties that originally went through Placemate that has a house on it. Our longer term view was to put an ADU on there. So now we'll have 2 houses on that lot, all for workforce. But using this particular kit, like I said, it's very cost effective, goes up very, very quickly. And if anybody's interested in, that'll get any referral fees or anything, but we, you know, as part of the housing hub, we have an ADU accelerator program where we're trying to encourage ADUs. One of the big challenges is cost, and the other one is finding something that works in the snow of the environment. So that's it, really.
Thank you. I have one follow-up question, and then we'll turn it over to the analysts. And you may have mentioned this, and maybe I missed it. Did you talk about how much parking you have with the dorms? How does the parking work?
So the parking with the dorm. So let me add. There's two components to that. One is the house has 2 dedicated parking spaces to it. The dormitory, we do not have any parking. So the people who stay in there all commute using public transportation. And the Tart Connect has made that possible. It really makes it work. So we don't have any parking, but that's part of the lease. So we're targeting people who don't need cars. And so that makes, you reduce traffic downtown. You don't have the congestion. Like I said, I mean, we have exterior cameras on the building just for security, and you can watch Tart Connect come in every morning. 5 or 6 people get in, they go off to Palisades. So it actually works very well from a transportation perspective, reduce congestion, and no parking demand in townside.
Yeah. Alexa, did you, just a follow-up on that, how did you do that with Placer County? Like, did they have to change their, like, because they require a certain number of spaces and things per unit?
So we did not get any exemptions. We did not get any. We've chosen to operate it this way, primarily because we did not want to impact the bars. So we met all the codes. Mm-hmm. So we have adequate parking for both uses, but we wanted to preserve that parking because think about it, the prime parking demand for the bar is in the evening, and that's also the prime parking demand for people who live there. So we've chosen to operate it this way. We built it into the lease. And again, this is not a solution for everybody by any stretch of imagination, but a lot of people don't have cars and they get around with public transportation, and this sort of perpetuates that. But no, we met all the codes.
Okay, thanks. Again, is it a year-long lease, or are you targeting like a seasonal worker accommodation?
So the minimum lease under the code is 30 days. The first year we did a master lease with Palisades for the entire year. This summer we're doing individual leases with individuals, and the minimum that we're requiring is 3 months. So it can be seasonal.
And what's the rent?
$750 a month.
Pretty.
Sure.
Where's the ADU located?
It's directly behind that. So I had a picture of the dormitory on the left and the Peters on the right. This is directly behind. Yeah, that's the door right there. And that's Peter. So it's just behind the door. You can see if you have that out, we painted it the same color, so it kind of blends in, but you can see just a tiny peak there. You can see it from the golf course, which is a nice view for this peak.
This. But I see a couple in here.
2 people per room.
Yes.
So a lot of dorm housing, like when I think of dorm housing, I think of colleges or universities, and there's like a dorm parent to help facilitate the living for people that you don't know. With a lot of people in a small space, so I'm curious how you manage that and things like, I don't know, cleaning and chores and like how do they live well together?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So for the first year, it was essentially Palisades managed that, and so they have people that do those various different things. For this summer, we have a service that we're using. We vet, everyone has to go through an application process. We vet everybody, and then we take care of all the common areas, so the bathrooms, kitchens, etc. Clean that. Come talk to me at the end of the summer. I'll let you know how they
Good luck.
We do have, we are hiring basically a dorm manager. So if you know anybody who's interested, we'll be interested. Because you're right, there is some level of management. But I will say that we just did a debrief with Palisades at the end of their winter, and there were a few personality quirks, a few little things here and there, but by and large, everybody was, sort of got along. And they had J1s, they had some locals, they had some H1s. So they had a variety of different people and from different cultures as well. And, it has little bumps along the way, but surprisingly, people are here not for the housing, they're here for the mountains and for the fun.
Yeah. I'm wondering, I may have missed this in the beginning of your presentation. You're a private developer,
Yes.
and I think this is great. It fits the community needs perfectly. Did you run numbers to make sure that this was the most profitable for you, or were you aiming to do the cross reference of like community needs plus your profit?
So this is definitely not the highest and best use of
Yep.
the property. I could have made more money.
Okay.
I for the last 15 years, I've been involved in a lot of different organizations. I'm the founding board chair of the Tahoe Housing Hub, which is a 501c4 where we're 100% focused on housing. The 2 projects that I did with East Locals, those were properties that we bought for them. So there is a very sort of values-based piece that's at work for me. I will say, is Tim here? Tim is in the back. Launchpad
I was going to ask about that next, yeah.
has just announced a program
Yes.
where they will subsidize an SRO or the
Conversion of commercial, right?
conversion
Yeah.
of commercial to something like that. Because I will tell you, we owned the property because we bought it in 2018. If you wanted to do this from scratch, it wouldn't work. It's not only wouldn't be the most money you could make, you probably couldn't make money. So Launchpad having that subsidy will be, I think, really important if somebody wants to do this again.
That's fascinating. Thank you for doing this. Great. Guys, and
Are there any more questions? I have a related question for Jean, but I just want to make sure that anyone else gets a question like question this to me. Is there any chance that you can kind of partner with the stalled projects in House City and kind of strike at either the hotels that aren't doing so well or the giant hole in the ground on the way to like how do we get the message out that this happened quickly and what?
So I have partnered with that giant hole in the ground.
Yeah.
I own that hole in the ground.
what?
So I'm it has, and there's nobody that's less happy about that than me. We were ready to go, and then we had 2 lawsuits, and then we had COVID.
Yeah.
We had the money lined up to do it this summer,
Okay.
and then the tariffs completely blew our costs out of it. So,
Yeah.
believe me, I am all about getting that done.
For Firehouse even good things to
Firehouse, I've been in conversations with the county about the firehouse.
yeah. I know.
15 years to try to do something there. I know. I get it. I totally get it.
What do you feel like's the biggest bottleneck? I mean, if you're so entrenched, like how as a community member do we also help you with this sport? I mean, I drive by that every day on the way to my kids' school, and it's like we are a prime real estate in front of a lake town. It's worldwide known, and we are not coming to that. Like it's just
Yeah. No.
question our boat.
Right now it's macroeconomics. So it's we're at a weird place where
Like boat arts and
cost of capital are very, very high. Interest rates, everybody knows. The cost of construction had been sort of leveling out, and we thought we were going to get started this summer, and then all of a sudden, costs went up more than 20% because you have to remember when you're building real estate. Yes, everybody knows, we've got tariffs and lumber is more expensive and steel's more expensive, etc. But we also have a very, very problematic, I don't want to get politically here, but the majority of the workforce that builds these are people who are now frightened to come to work.
for unnice.
And so we have a very, very challenging dynamic in the construction world right now that 6 months ago didn't exist, and now it's troubling and upsetting.
So what's your next focus? What's your next project?
I gotta breathe a little bit. No, so we are, so that building right there, we redesigned it.
Yeah.
We're building one of those this summer over at a property that we we had through Instabogle. So it was a single family home in Tahoe Vista that we're having in ABU2. And then I'm spent a lot of my time just on the House and Ho, getting that up to speed, and we're actually getting ready to launch another nonprofit. So within that, there'll be a housing trust.
Just to follow up on Samir's comment, all of the increased costs for new construction is one of the reasons that new construction is going to be more challenging than it has been.
Right. Yeah.
It's going to be really tough. So
Jason's numbers to prove it's like you can house people with what's in there versus.
So that's why I've decided to shift our focus, at least in part, to the Tahoe program, focusing on preserving existing housing stock.
Okay. Well, I want to get you guys out of here in time to get to the next session. So thank you, everyone. And if the speakers have a few minutes, maybe they can answer some more maybe questions. Thank you so much to everybody, to all of you guys for your participation.
Is there a couple more questions?
Can I ask really quick? Sorry, you both also have great programs, but I just had never heard of what you've done before. And I want to ask, I work for the town of Truckee. So many people, both for Truckee, TRPA, Placer, I've heard over and over how hard it is to work with all these jurisdictions. And it may just be your mindset. You're very successful, obviously. Is there something different that you're doing, or do you think that you're just can you speak to that briefly?
Yeah, so a couple of things, and thank you for saying that. So the conversation this morning resonated with me so well, and we were talking about fire, all that sort of stuff. But from day one, I mean, there are a bunch of people in this room who I know, and I can call, and we talk, and we have conversations and stuff. And so that can't be underemphasized how important that is. And not go in when you need something, but go in and have the conversation. Say, hey, I'm trying to solve this problem. How can we solve this problem together? So that's
interesting.
That is really.
You don't come with plans. You come with
God no. Don't come. I mean, we got the hotel approved back in 2016, 2017. We did that whole process. Before we did anything, I walked into Joanne Marquetta's office and I said, Joanne, I've got this idea, help me solve it. And we solved it together.
Interesting.
We came up with a solution together. Then I went to Placer County, same thing. Well before we had any application, and had those conversations. And I walked into Placer County and like, oh my God, we just finished this visioning thing and everyone said we need a hotel in town. So how do we make this happen?
Wow. Okay.
So you have those conversations in advance.
You got your ear to the ground, understanding what the needs are. So
yeah. So I think that's really important. Don't go in with a here's what I want to do. That's the mistake.
That's very quick. It is possible. There are a lot of obstacles, but as Heidi mentioned earlier today, the Sugar Pine Village project, 240, the largest residential project in the basin. With the help of the city of South Lake Tahoe, with the help of TRPA, state, we got all of the entitlements, all of the improvements for that project in 6 months, and that is exceptional.
Yes.
Yeah. In the Least Locals program, it was the town of Truckee who came forward with the money to say, let's add an incentive for this.
Yes.
So, whether you're talking about the city, the county, TRPA, everyone loves to point fingers and blame one of them for why something can't get done, but none of these projects would have happened without their cooperation.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, go find the wins. That's
helpful. Thank you.
What makes for the community and for the agencies, and make everybody look good.
That's why we're here, to share our success, our ability to get it done.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you.